Chapter 19 of a lady's fierce independence and a gentleman's startlingly honest confessions. Crispin woke to unfamiliar sensations, the weight of someone else's arm draped across his body, the scent of strange perfume on his pillow, and most disconcertingly, the absence of his usual pre-dawn anxiety. Consciousness arrived not with its customary jolt, but rather as a gentle tide, washing in and then receding slightly before returning with greater certainty. He kept his eyes closed, cataloguing the evidence. The arm belonged to Carrie. Its weight was both anchor and comfort. The scent was something citrusy with an undertone of vanilla, a world away from the familiar lilac of Margaret's night creams. And the anxiety's absence? He noted it like a missing limb, the complete displacement of his habitual morning dread by a quiet, unnerving stillness. Contentment, perhaps, or something more dangerous. He opened his eyes to a ceiling that was his but not his, the same white expanse that crowned every Cunard cabin, familiar from his previous voyages, yet utterly transformed by context. Dawn light filtered through a gap in the curtains, casting a narrow golden path across the bed. Beside him, Carrie slept on, her breathing deep and even. Her hair spilled across the pillow, a golden tangle that caught the light. One of her hands rested possessively on his chest, the other tucked beneath her cheek. Her face in sleep was softer, younger. The lines of concentration that often bracketed her mouth smoothed away. He glanced at the bedside clock. Just past 6. Surprising that Carrie was still asleep. From what he'd gathered, she was typically an early riser herself, often up before dawn to catch the perfect light or an early flight. The fact that she slept on now suggested a level of comfort, of security, that touched him deeply. He must have shifted slightly, because Carrie's eyes opened, focusing immediately on his face. No confusion, no disorientation. Instant recognition, followed by a slow, lazy smile.
"Morning,"
She murmured, her voice husky with sleep. "Good morning," he replied, suddenly acutely aware of his morning breath, his tousled hair, his general dishevelment. He resisted the urge to smooth a hand over his face. "I hope I didn't wake you."
No.
She stretched, cat-like, her body arching beneath the sheets.
Normally, I'd have been up an hour ago. Must be the company.
Or the rather vigorous evening exercise regimen. She laughed, the sound vibrating against his side.
That too. God, I need coffee.
That can be arranged. He reached for the room service menu on the nightstand. "Shall I order for us? We could have breakfast on the balcony. The ship should be approaching Great Oyster Bay soon."
Sounds perfect.
She sat up, sheets pooling around her waist, gloriously unself-conscious in her nudity.
But first, shower.
He watched, transfixed, as she slipped from the bed and padded across the cabin, disappearing into the bathroom. The door remained ajar. He saw the gap not as an oversight, but an invitation. After a minute's consideration, he followed. She was adjusting the water temperature, her back to him, all golden skin and graceful lines. Steam was already beginning to fill the small space. "Room for 2?" he asked, aiming for casual and landing somewhere closer to hopeful. She turned, giving him an appraising look that became a laugh as she surveyed the bathtub that her cabin didn't have.
Technically, yes. Practically.
She shook her head.
In my experience, shower sex is never that great. Someone always gets cold, someone else gets water up their nose, and inevitably someone slips and nearly brains themselves on the soap dish.
"That's remarkably specific," he said, amused by her pragmatism.
I'm a practical woman.
She stepped into the bathtub, turning her body under the water.
Besides, if we shower together, we'll only need another shower afterwards, and then we'll never get to breakfast.
He laughed, admiring the sight before she drew the curtain across. "Your logic is impeccable."
Always is.
Her voice came muffled through the steam and curtain.
Order me a flat white, would you? And something with eggs. I'm starving.
demanding, aren't you?
You have no idea.
He left her to her ablutions, calling in their breakfast order. A flat white for her, black coffee for himself, eggs Benedict for her, a full English for himself, plus fruit and pastries. By the time he'd finished, the bathroom was free, fragrant with steam and whatever products she'd used.
All yours.
She said, emerging wrapped in one of the plush Cunard bathrobes, her hair twisted up in a towel. I ordered breakfast, he told her. 20 minutes.
Perfect.
She crossed to the balcony, sliding open the door to let in the fresh morning air.
I'll wait out here.
His own shower was efficient, bordering on hasty. The familiar routine, soap, shampoo, rinse was comfortingly normal. Yet everything felt subtly altered. Even the water seemed to fall differently on his skin, as if his nerve endings had been recalibrated overnight. When he emerged, wrapped in his own robe, Carrie was seated on the balcony, her legs tucked up beneath her, hair now loose and drying in the breeze. She was gazing out at the approaching coastline, her head tilted as if trying to find the perfect frame for the view. Penny for them, he said, joining her. She glanced up.
Thinking how strange life is. Yesterday at this time, I was alone in my cabin, getting ready for a tour of Port Arthur. And now? Now I'm here. With you.
She said it simply, without drama or portent. Yet the words seemed to sparkle in the air between them, and his heart thumped in appreciation. Before he could respond, a knock at the door announced the arrival of breakfast. He opened it and stepped aside, watching as the steward wheeled the trolley in. The young man, impossibly neat in his starched uniform, moved with elegance, setting out their meal on the small table with quick, deft movements. Silver covers were lifted to reveal steaming plates, coffee was poured, napkins arranged, all with a choreography that spoke of years of service. Crispin found himself admiring the routine, the seamless professionalism of it all.
"Will there be anything else, sir?"
the steward asked. "No, thank you. This is perfect." With a polite nod, the steward withdrew, leaving them alone with their feast. They ate in companionable silence for a while, the only sounds the clink of cutlery against china and the distant wash of the ship's bow wave. The coastline drew steadily closer, green hills rising from the blue water dotted with the white specks of isolated houses. "Look," Crispin said, pointing to a small vessel approaching. "The pilot boat." Carrie leaned forward, squinting against the morning sun.
They're coming alongside.
"Yes. The pilot will come aboard to guide us through the bay. It's standard practice in unfamiliar or difficult waters, you know. I've always found it rather fascinating, this whole tradition. In the old days, the pilots would sometimes row out in all weathers to meet incoming ships, risking life and limb to lead the vessels safely to harbour. Quite a responsibility, what?"
A huge responsibility.
She agreed.
There's a metaphor in there somewhere.
"For what?"
I'm not sure yet, but it feels significant.
They watched as the pilot boat drew alongside, its crew executing the delicate manoeuvre with casual ease. A lone figure in uniform climbed the pilot ladder, disappearing into the ship's hull.
I need to get my camera.
Carrie said suddenly.
This light is extraordinary.
A small, irrational panic fluttered in his chest at the thought of her leaving. "You'll come back?" She gave him an odd look, half amused, half tender.
Of course. My cabin's just down the corridor. Look, you can see it from here, the one with the balcony sticking out. Much better view than this one, but everyone can see what you're doing. I'll be 5 minutes, tops.
Right, yes, of course. He felt foolish for asking, a flush of neediness colouring his thoughts. "I'll be here." She leaned over to kiss him, a quick, casual gesture that somehow contained more intimacy than their encounters of the night before.
Don't go anywhere,
she murmured against his lips, then disappeared into the cabin, the robe cinched tightly around her waist. The door clicked shut behind her, and Crispin was left alone with the cooling remains of breakfast and his own thoughts. The latter were more unsettling than he cared to admit. What was he doing? This wasn't a casual holiday fling. This wasn't even an ill-advised conference affair, the sort of indiscretion that his colleagues occasionally engaged in, fueled by academic ennui and too much warm wine at department functions. This was something else entirely. He pushed the thought away, focusing instead on the practicalities of the day ahead. He had no panel obligations today, no lectures to prepare for. His time was entirely his own, a rare luxury that now seemed like a gift from the scheduling gods. True to her word, Carrie returned within minutes, still in her robe, but now with a camera bag slung over one shoulder and a bottle of sparkling wine tucked under her arm.
Found this languishing in the fridge.
She said triumphantly, brandishing the bottle.
I brought this to share with Lucy. But since she's stuck in hospital and you're here...
It's not even 9 in the morning, he pointed out, but without much conviction.
We're on holiday, on a cruise. Time is meaningless.
She set the bottle on the table.
Besides, it's practically medicinal. The bubbles aid digestion.
Is that scientifically proven?
Absolutely not.
She grinned, unpacking her camera.
But it sounds plausible, doesn't it?
He watched as she assembled her equipment, attaching a lens to the camera body with a satisfying click. Her movements were precise, economical, a dance of muscle memory and expertise. You know, he said, pouring them each a glass of the sparkling wine, I haven't actually seen you properly at work. She looked up, her eyebrows raised in amusement.
Haven't you? What about yesterday? What about when you stepped directly into my shot at Sydney Cove? When I was trying to get the Queen Elizabeth passing Pinchgut?
He winced, the memory suddenly vivid. Ah, yes, that.
You were quite the nuisance, if I recall.
I believe your exact words were, may I toss you in the harbour?
The offer still stands,
she said, but her smile took any sting from the words.
And now, you're about to see me work again. I warn you, it's not very exciting to watch. A lot of squinting and muttering.
I find that hard to believe. She shrugged, lifting the camera to her eye.
Suit yourself.
Yesterday, he began. Yesterday I was watching you take photographs, yes, but I was watching you, not your technique. I don't know the first thing about cameras, not really.
Just press the buttons. Real photographers don't talk about cameras, they talk about photographs.
She went back to her work. He poured them both another measure. She giggled and set her camera down. They sipped their wine for a few moments, watching the sunlight glitter on the water. The silence wasn't empty, but full of a quiet, shared contentment. Then Carrie moved to the railing, adjusting her position slightly as she framed the view. The ship was now well within the bay, the surrounding landscape a study in blues and greens, the water flat and silvery in the morning light. Crispin watched her work. Her entire posture changed, the relaxed lines of her body tightening into a poised stillness. She became a piece of precision equipment, as focused and functional as the camera in her hands. Click. She reviewed the image on the screen, frowned slightly, adjusted something, and tried again. Click. This time she nodded, satisfied, and moved to a different angle. What are you looking for? He asked after a while.
Light.
She said, without lowering the camera.
Shape. A moment.
A story? She paused, considering.
Not always. Sometimes there isn't a story in the photograph itself. Sometimes it's an element, a detail that makes the viewer create their own story.
I'm not sure I follow. She lowered the camera, turning to face him.
Think of it like a song. The best songs aren't always straightforward narratives. They have these little oddities, these moments that make your brain work a bit. Like Mother and Child Reunion by Paul Simon. I don't really know what it means, to be honest.
The title refers to a chicken and egg dish he saw on a menu, Crispin supplied. He'd always liked that piece of trivia, the historian in him appreciating the strange provenance of the phrase.
Exactly. But that's not what you think of when you hear it. Your brain fills in a different story. The ambiguity is what makes it stick.
Like a whiter shade of pale, he offered, the concept clicking into place. I mean, one understands the individual words, of course, but the combination of them, the narrative of the miller and the dozen Vestal virgins, it creates this atmosphere, this feeling of something significant happening just out of sight, and it doesn't matter that it's not entirely logical.
Yes, or Moon River.
She gestured expansively with her free hand.
Is it about a river? About light on the water? About wanderlust? Nobody knows, but everyone feels something.
Or Dancing Queen, he added, leaning forward now, his hands beginning to gesture as if shaping the argument in the air. Which is, on the surface of it, a perfectly joyous, perfectly straightforward pop song about a 17-year-old girl having the grand time of her life. But it's infused with this undercurrent of, what? Nostalgia? A sort of vicarious pleasure from the older observers? It's really quite remarkable the way they managed to create such emotional depth from such simple components. She laughed, delighted by his sudden verbal torrent.
I was not expecting ABBA scholarship from you, Professor.
I contain multitudes, he said with mock gravity, slightly embarrassed by his rambling enthusiasm.
Clearly.
She raised her camera again, but this time aimed it at him. Click.
That's it exactly. A great photograph doesn't explain. It suggests. It leaves room for the viewer.
The insight struck him with unexpected force. That's what I've been getting wrong with my book. She lowered the camera, her expression curious.
Your book on Cameron.
Yes. I know all the facts, the dates, the exhibitions, the techniques. But what I don't have is the heart of it. I've been trying to explain everything, to lay out all the evidence, all the connections. But perhaps what it needs is space for the reader to feel something that isn't explicitly stated.
To find their own story within yours.
Yes. He felt a surge of excitement, the familiar thrill of an intellectual breakthrough. It's not about being comprehensive. It's about being evocative.
Creating an atmosphere rather than a catalogue.
Precisely. He ran a hand through his hair, ideas tumbling over one another. I've been so focused on getting the facts right that I've neglected the emotional truth beneath them. Carrie nodded, setting her camera down and picking up her wine glass.
Facts are important, but they're not the whole story. Sometimes what matters most is what happened between the documented moments.
The spaces between the facts, he murmured, recalling his words from the panel. That's where life actually happens. She raised her glass to him.
To the spaces between.
He clinked his glass against hers. Something bloomed inside, a quiet warmth that had nothing to do with the wine. This was what had been missing from his work, from his life. This ability to see beyond the documented, to imagine the human reality behind the historical record. And somehow, impossibly, this woman he'd known for mere days had shown him what years of academic training had obscured. The sound of Carrie's phone buzzing interrupted their conversation. She retrieved it from her camera bag, glancing at the screen. Her face immediately softened into a fond smile.
Lucy.
She explained, showing him the message. Crispin watched as she typed a response, her fingers flying across the screen. Her reply to what was clearly a pointed question from her friend was as simple.
Yes. He's right here watching me message you, so details will have to wait.
Carrie snorted at the rapid-fire string of exclamation marks that appeared in response, then set the phone aside. He watched her smile, and a thought formed with painful clarity, a thought that felt both like a betrayal and a fundamental truth. The thought landed with the force of a physical blow. He had never felt so completely seen by another person. Not by his colleagues, not by his friends, not even by Margaret. the woman he'd shared his life with for nearly 20 years. She doesn't understand me. The thought was immediately followed by a wave of shame at its trite inadequacy. It was the stuff of bad novels and midlife crises, a cliché so worn it had lost all meaning. And yet, here, with Carrie, he felt seen in a way that was entirely new. She grasped what he was trying to say before he fully articulated it, sensed the shape of his thoughts as they formed. Their minds seemed to operate on the same frequency, resonating with a harmony that felt almost predestined. Something of his thoughts must have shown on his face, because Carrie's expression shifted, becoming more thoughtful.
What is it?
She asked. Nothing, just thinking.
About?
He hesitated, then decided on honesty. About how easy this is, talking to you, being with you.
Compared to...
She left the question open, but they both knew what she was asking. Compared to most people, he said carefully. Compared to home. She nodded unsurprised.
Margaret doesn't understand your work.
It wasn't a question, but he answered anyway. Not really, no. Her interests lie elsewhere. She's never been particularly academic.
And that bothers you.
Sometimes, he admitted. It shouldn't, I know. It's not her responsibility to be interested in everything I am. But sometimes I wish...
That she'd at least try?
Yes. The single syllable felt like a betrayal, but also a relief. Is that terribly selfish of me? Carrie considered this, her head tilted slightly.
Maybe. Or maybe you're looking at it the wrong way. Maybe it's not that she doesn't understand you. Maybe you don't understand her.
The question caught him off guard. I'm sorry.
Has it occurred to you that she might be perfectly content with the life you've built together? That she might not be sitting at home lamenting her inability to discuss Victorian photography or the finer points of historical research?
He felt a flicker of defensiveness, quickly replaced by a grudging acknowledgement of her point. I suppose I haven't thought about it that way.
Not every woman is Elizabeth Bennet,
Carrie said, a hint of challenge in her voice.
Not everyone is waiting for a Darcy to make them complete. Some women are perfectly happy with a comfortable home, a reliable husband and their own pursuits, whatever those might be.
That's rather insightful.
Or presumptuous,
She allowed.
I don't know, Margaret. Maybe she is secretly yearning for deep philosophical discussions. But in my experience, most people know what they want, even if they don't articulate it.
And you? He asked, turning her question back on her. Are you Elizabeth Bennet? The question seemed to hit her hard. She looked away, out toward the coastline, her profile sharp against the blue sky. For a long moment she was silent, and he feared he'd overstepped. Finally she spoke, her voice soft but firm.
No, I'm not waiting for anyone to complete me. I'm not a half-finished sentence or an unsolved equation.
She turned back to him, her gaze direct and uncompromising.
But I am someone who recognizes when a connection is real, when it matters.
She paused, searching for the right words.
I haven't been waiting, but maybe that person has found me anyway, by sheer chance.
Her words hit him like a rogue wave, a sudden sharp intake of breath that was equal parts elation and terror.
Do you think we understand each other?
She asked suddenly.
Really understand?
I'd like to think so.
Well, what am I thinking right now?
He studied her face, the slight flush of her cheeks, the intensity of her gaze, the way her robe had fallen slightly open at the collar, revealing the elegant line of her collarbone. He leaned forward and gently tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear, letting his fingers linger for a moment on the warmth of her skin. He was on the right track. He could tell it in her eyes. He reached across the small space between them, his fingers finding the sash of her robe. He untied it with deliberate slowness, his eyes never leaving hers. The robe parted, revealing a feast of golden skin. "Inside," he said softly, taking her hand. "Now." She followed him through the balcony door, back into the cabin, back to the rumpled bed that still held the memory of their night together. As the door closed behind them, shutting out the world and its complications, he found himself hoping, with unexpected fierceness, that their understanding would continue to deepen, to grow, to become something as timeless and elegant as one of Carrie's perfect photographs.